I never imagined my courage would lead me to save a billion-dollar legacy from heartbreak. The day it all came crashing down, I felt an invisible weight pressing on my chest. I was standing on the edge of the yacht, the shimmering waves below seemed to mock my turmoil. It was the party of the century, but laughter echoed hollowly in my ears, mingling with the chaos of my pounding heart. That I will never forget the stench of fresh-cut roses all around me, their beauty contrasting sharply with the dread I felt. The grandeur of the event felt like a cruel joke. Behind the glitz, something sinister was brewing. I could see the way my father crumbled under the weight of expectations, the smile on his face a mask hiding despair. My heart twisted as I thought of my mother, fighting her own battles, her fragile health barely holding together as she watched everything we built teetering on the brink of disaster. Then it happened. A shattering voice rang out across the crowd. "You have no idea what's coming, do you?" My fingers trembled, gripping the railing. I turned to see Veronica, the family lawyer, her eyes flashing with something between fury and concern. The whispers followed her, sharp and biting, like icy daggers in the air. "Betrayal is brewing, and it's going to ruin everything," she warned, her voice spiraling into the darkness. Tension thickened like fog. Faces stared wide-eyed, a blend of shock and apprehension. My brother, Jack, stood frozen, his jaw set tightly. Did he know? The air crackled with questions, and my world felt like it was tilting. I had to act. I had to uncover the secrets hiding in the shadows, but what if the truth was more dangerous than the lies? The party swirled around me, vibrant colors and gaudy laughter mingling with the dread roiling in my gut. I breathed deeply, tasting salt and something metallic on my lips. I felt a sudden rush of determination. What if I could halt this? What if I could save my family and our legacy from falling apart? Could I find the strength to confront the betrayal lurking in the dark corners? But just as hope flickered in my soul, something shifted. A figure cloaked in mystery emerged from the crowd, eyes locked onto mine. Fear gripped me, cold and hard. Was this the end or simply the beginning? Before I could catch my breath, the figure whispered something that sent a chill down my spine. "It won't end well for you. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The night air was thick, sentient almost, wrapping around me like a shroud as I stepped away from the gathering. Laughter and music ebbed, retreating into the distance and leaving only the crashing of waves and the echo of that ominous whisper in my ears. "It won't end well for you." The words looped through my mind, each repetition tightening the grip of anxiety around my chest. That I stumbled down the yacht's steps, seeking refuge in the solitude of the lower deck. The dim lights cast playful shadows, but even in their flicker, I could feel the weight of impending doom. My father's laughter, once filled with warmth, now felt like a ghost haunting this opulent vessel, and my mother, her fragile demeanor wavered as she leaned heavily on the fabric of our family's salvation. That I leaned against the polished wood, the cool surface grounding me momentarily. Memories of our family's joyful gatherings played in my mind like an old film reel, birthdays, anniversaries, laughter echoing off the walls. But now, I felt as if I was trapped in a frame of despair. The vibrant colors faded, replaced by the grayscale of unraveling. Suddenly, I spotted Jack making his way toward me through the haze of the party. His face was pale, worry creasing his brow. "Did you hear what Veronica said?" he asked, the tremor in his voice betraying his usual bravado. What did she mean? 1,000 emotions collided within me: fear, anger, an overwhelming need to protect our family from whatever storm was approaching. "I can't let this ruin us," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. Jack hesitated, glancing back towards the blaring lights before fixing his gaze on me. "We need to talk to her. She knows something, and I have a sinking feeling it concerns us." "This isn't just about the company," he said, gripping the railing so tightly his knuckles were white. "Maybe it's personal." I felt a sudden rush of anger at the thought of our lives being dissected as if we were mere pawns in someone else's game. We can't wait. If there's a betrayal on the horizon, we have to confront it head-on. The fire in my chest ignited, fueled by the thought of losing everything. Just as we readied ourselves to break through the crowd, a distant sound brought me to a halt. A soft voice was singing, barely audible above the party-esque cacophony. It was coming from the far side of the deck. I turned to look, curiosity piercing through the tension. There, under the stars, I saw a young woman standing by herself, her fingers strumming a guitar. She didn't care about the chaos around her, she was lost in her own world. Her voice was tender, carrying a bittersweet melody that wrapped around me like a balm. It was an unexpected moment of warmth in the icy reality of our lives. For a brief second, I could escape the turmoil. The song mirrored the ache in my heart, and tears pricked my eyes, an embarrassing vulnerability seeping forth, but just then, our little sanctuary was shattered. I felt a presence looming behind me, and the cold voice of Veronica sliced through the air, shattering my moment of peace. "You shouldn't be here, hiding away. There are bigger fish to fry," she spat out, her frustration palpable. I felt the warmth fade as I turned to face her, each note of the song becoming staccato in my memory, like a heartbeat faltering. "What do you know?" Jack's voice was sharp, interrogative. I silently thanked him for his protective nature but also felt the growing divide. The vulnerability I just felt crumbled into the shadows of my gut. Veronica crossed her arms, her expression hardening. "Secrets don't stay hidden forever," she replied ominously. "You're standing on a precipice, and one misstep could send everything spiraling. Your family isn't as invincible as you think." Her words hung in the air, heavy like the storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Beyond the chaos of our family legacy, with its glimmering promises and hidden cracks, I sensed the danger was closer than we realized. We were chasing specters, and each time the truth eluded us, the stakes grew higher, and just as I prepared to confront her, my phone buzzed in my pocket, shattering the tension. I pulled it out and my breath hitched at the message flashing across the screen. "I know what you're hiding. Meet me before it's too late." Could this be the key to unraveling everything? Or a trap set by an unseen enemy? As my heart raced, I looked to my brother, searching for a sign, a direction. As the party pulsed on, vibrant and oblivious around us, I felt a sense of foreboding settle over me anew. Would I find answers, or would the cost of seeking the truth be more than I could bear? As the message flickered on the screen, the reality of my situation crashed over me like a wave. A second chance in a spiraling storm, but was that chance a blessing or a curse? My heart thudded like a hammer against my rib cage, each beat drumming a silent prayer for clarity amid the chaos. "We need to go," I stated firmly, gripping Jack's arm. The last wisps of the haunting melody faded behind us, replaced by the pounding bass of the party that felt miles away now. Jack's eyes narrowed, torn between loyalty to our family and his gut instinct for self-preservation. "Are you sure?" he asked, doubt lacing his voice as if he could sense the darkness looming ahead. The party continued to pulse with life, laughter and clinking glasses, a stark contrast to the heavy dread that clung to us. "I have to know what is going on, Jack." I paused, scanning the crowd, looking for any familiar face that could serve as a beacon in this storm. It could change everything about us, about Dad and Mom, the company. Whatever's coming needs to be confronted. His shoulders relaxed slightly, a sign he was aligning with my resolve. "Okay, let us just be cautious. If Veronica is right, then whatever waits for us may run deeper than we realize." We slipped away from the brightly lit deck and into the dimly lit corridor leading to the lower levels of the yacht. The air turned cooler, the distant music replaced by the sound of waves crashing against the hull, a rhythmic reminder of nature's indifference to our turmoil. Every step felt weighted, as if the yacht itself were leaning into our secrets, urging us to turn back. But doubts crawled into my mind, whispering uncertainties. What if this rendezvous led us deeper into danger? How had I allowed myself to be cornered into this tense, pivotal moment? The resilience I'd spent so long cultivating now felt like a fragile facade. Reluctantly, we reached the designated area, a secluded corner behind the crew quarters, invisible to the party's revelry. The shadows danced like specters around us, their flickering forms reminding me of everything that felt unstable in my life. Out of breath, I pulled up the message again, and my finger hesitated against the screen. I exhaled a shaky breath, and pressed a shaky finger against the call button. After a moment's silence, the line clicked, and a voice crackled through the speaker. "I see you got my message. You're running out of time. Who are you?" I demanded, fury gnawing at my control. "What do you know about my family?" "Breathe, Alex. I know more than you think. Find me tomorrow. Just you. No one else. If you don't want everything to come crashing down, then you'll follow my instruction." The voice was steady, assured, but there was no hint of a face or familiarity. It was a stranger pulling strings I could scarcely comprehend. In that moment, the weight of their words crashed around me, amplifying my vulnerability. My mother's fragile resolve, my father's facade of invincibility, everything was threatened by the unseen dangers lurking beneath the surface. I felt Jack's presence beside me lean in closer, urgency spurring him into action. "What do they want?" His voice was low, a whisper filled with equal parts fear and determination. "I don't know yet, but we need to be smart about this," I replied, my heart swirling with desperation. "I'll meet with them. I need answers, and maybe there's a way to protect our family. But if anything feels off, no. You're not doing this alone." The firmness in his tone cut through my resolve. "We built this life together, endured the same aching pressures. Whatever they're after, they'll have to get through me too." As his words settled, a flicker of hope ignited within, a gentle affirmation that even amidst overwhelming darkness, we weren't completely alone. I nodded, and together we made our way back towards the main deck, steeling ourselves against the laughter and restlessness that seemed both like a celebration and a funeral. Just as we reached the stairs, a sudden shout rang out across the gathering, cutting through the idle chatter. A couple was arguing vehemently, their voices raw with emotion. An unexpected crescendo of conflict that drew in a crowd, their anticipation palpable. Jack and I exchanged hesitant glances, uncertainty clouding our judgment. "What now?" I murmured, desperate to avoid further distraction from my impending meeting. "Let's check it out," he suggested, urging me forward. The innate curiosity outweighed any instincts for caution as we were drawn into the chaotic energy. As we rounded the corner, we were met with the sight of a woman furiously confronting a man, their faces indiscernible in the fray. My instincts screamed for retreat, but then I caught sight of a familiar figure behind them, his posture tense and guarded. It was my father. "Dad!" I rushed forward, the concern emulating from deep within, but before I could reach him, I froze at the sight of his expression. Shocked and pale, he looked as if he was experiencing a reckoning, a moment where the weight of his life threatened to topple like a house of cards. The air thickened with unspoken truths, the secrets I felt spiraling into the abyss suddenly gaining uncontained power. But just as realization hit, a sharp intake of breath echoed through the crowd, and the woman pointed accusingly. "You think you can keep this hidden forever? Your empire is built on lies." As gasps spread through the onlookers, the final threads of my father's composure unraveled, leaving me standing on the edge of an emotional precipice, facing an inevitable truth, a revelation that could either save or swallow us whole. The crowd's breath hung in the air, tightly woven with tension as the woman's words echoed, a haunting refrain that reverberated through the gathering. I felt my heart race, each beat amplified by the uncertainty swirling around me. My father's eyes briefly met mine, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through the stoic facade he had so meticulously maintained. "Dad, is this true?" My voice strained to break through the deafening silence that had enveloped us, my own fear transforming into desperation. I had spent years trying to understand the man behind the title, hoping to uncover the fear and hurt that lay beneath the polished exterior. But the truth revealed here had the potential to shatter everything that he opened his mouth to respond, but the words caught in his throat, choked by the weight of unspoken secrets. I could see the struggle playing out behind his steely gaze, the conflict between a father's love and the burden of his choices. The woman continued, her voice unyielding and malicious, "You think you can turn a blind eye to the devastation you've caused? The foundation of your empire is nothing but a shambles of deceit." Whispers spread through the crowd like wildfire, igniting uncertainty in their hearts, while I stood there, rooted to the spot. Jack's hand found mine, grounding me amidst the turmoil, but I remained fixed on the scene unfolding before us, unsure of whether to intervene or retreat. "I didn't mean for any of this to come out like this," my father finally said, his voice a brittle whisper but just loud enough for us to hear. "I made choices for the family, for the company. I thought I was protecting you." My breath quickened, waves of anger and heartbreak crashing against each other within me. Protecting us? There was nothing to protect us from now if this truth came spilling out unchecked. Protecting us from what? I shouted, the question spilling forth before I could rein in my emotion. Protecting us from knowing the truth? From understanding who you really are? The crowd inched closer, drawn by the spectacle, their eyes fixed on us like vultures anticipating the inevitable fall. Jack squeezed my hand tighter, a silent encouragement to keep pushing through the layers of deceit. But I feared those layers had become the very foundation of my family, the bonds that once united us now threatening to suffocate me. "Alex, this isn't the right time," my father pleaded, his voice suddenly breaking, revealing cracks in his armor. He stepped forward, the crowd parting for him, but I held my ground against the encroaching chaos. "Then when, Dad?" I countered, my tone sharp, but the trembling in my voice betrayed the tempest raging inside me. "When will it ever be the right time for honesty? For you to stop hiding behind a mask?" The woman interjected, her fury undeterred. "You're just as complicit. You've been raised in this world of lies. But you, Alex, you can still break free. You don't have to follow his path. Choose differently." Her words pierced through me, igniting a spark of rebellion I hadn't realized was so deeply rooted. But in that instant, the glimmer of hope dissipated, swallowed by fear and uncertainty. My father's face twisted in horror, it was as if our world had suddenly split apart. "Why are you doing this?" my father demanded, his voice thick with emotion. "What do you want from me? From my family?" "I want justice," she spat, her eyes gleaming with a fierce intensity. "And I want you to take responsibility for what you've built on the backs of others. For every family you've destroyed in the name of your ambition." The revelry around us had dimmed entirely, and with each accusation, it became painfully clear that I stood not only on the precipice of my father's downfall but of my own identity. The hidden truths that were meant to remain buried now rushed to the surface, leaving behind a torrent of betrayal, anger, and fear. Suddenly, as if orchestrated by fate, the lights on the yacht flickered for a moment, casting ghostly shadows against the faces of the crowd. I blinked and caught sight of a figure. Lurking at the edge of the gathering, someone shrouded in darkness, watching this unraveling spectacle with intense focus. The hint of recognition sparked in my chest, igniting another wave of dread. That a moment of clarity washed over me, a terrifying realization that something much larger was at play, a scheme bigger than my father's failures, larger than my own turmoil. It was as if I had peered beyond a veil into a world of treachery, where every smile hid another dagger, and every gesture concealed ulterior motives. "Alex," Jack whispered, pulling me back toward him just as my father turned to face the accusing crowd, determination etched into his features. "We need to leave. This isn't the end." But before I could respond, another voice emerged from the crowd, cutting through the murmur of accusations. "And you think you can just leave? You've created this mess. It's time for you to face the consequences." My heart plunged. The weight of those words clung to me like a shroud, tightening the already precarious situation. Suddenly, amidst the chaos, a shadowy figure stepped forward, a young woman with an unmistakable resemblance to my father. My breath caught in an instant, memories flooding back, and I realized with staggering clarity, she was my sister lost to our family's secrets all this time, brought into our midst by the unfolding storm. Why is everyone so surprised? She spoke, her voice steady yet haunting. You're not the only one with a story to tell. As the realization sunk in, electrifying the air around us, I felt the storm brewing stronger than ever. With forces colliding and truths spilling forth, an entirely new dimension of turmoil watched us with open arms, awaiting our next move in this perilous game that had spiraled well beyond our control. The room buzzed with an electrifying tension that escalated as I faced the unexpected presence of my sister. Her eyes, shimmering with a mix of defiance and unresolved pain, drilled into me. I felt as if the floor beneath me had crumbled away, leaving me suspended in a void of disbelief. For so long, I had thought I was the lone victim of our family's silence, but there she stood, an embodiment of everything my father had tried to bury. It occurred to me that I was not merely contending with my father's legacy but also with the weight of our shared history, a history I had been shielded from. Why didn't anyone tell me? I finally managed to stammer, the question sounding weak even to my own ears. The crowd's scrutiny swirled like a cyclone, their confusion mingling with my own. Because it was easier to pretend, my sister replied, her steady voice resonating through the room, cutting through the cacophony of whispers and aghast gasps. Easier for him, easier for everyone. There was a challenge in her words, her gaze flicked to our father, each syllable igniting the existing flames of discord. But look where it's gotten us. I'm not hiding anymore, she declared, a resolute edge breaking through the simmering tension. My heartbeat quickened as I absorbed the notion. This was not just about my father and the twisted roots of our family. It was also about a sister I had never known, sparking defiance I desperately wanted to grasp onto. Alex, please, my father spoke, his voice shaky as he bridged the gap between us, attempting to reclaim his authority amid the unraveling chaos. This was never meant for you. I was trying to protect you both. Protect? My sister's voice rose sharply. You kept us in the dark. You kept me a secret. She stepped forward, the vehemence crackling like static electricity, igniting something dormant in me, a sense of urgency. Beneath her anger lay a deep-rooted need for acknowledgement, for connection, and I felt an inexplicable urge to reach out to her, to embrace this family that had long been fractured. Together, we can change this, she urged, her gaze flitting briefly toward me, as if calling me into the fold. Speak out, Alex. Use your voice, our voices. We deserve more than silence. The reality of her plea crashed against my consciousness, a collision of fear and hope battling for dominance. I had spent so much time trying to hide from the truth, sealing my lips to fit within the confines of the shiny facade surrounding my family. But now, it felt like a light was piercing through the murk. Do it for the families out there, those like us, she continued, her conviction unwavering. Imagine how many more lives could be saved if we stopped this cycle. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, a communal heartbeat that hungered for more than just shattered reputations. They craved transparency, clarity. My father's expression shifted to one of fury, but I could see the struggle, the trembling hope beneath his bluster that perhaps his secrets might still protect the empire he so desperately wanted to save. I need to think, I murmured, almost as a reflex, stalling beneath the weight of it all. The tension coiling within me threatened to explode. So many thoughts raced through my mind, echoes of affection for my father battling with the truth of his mistakes, igniting anger toward a world that had allowed deceit to fester for so long. You don't have time, my sister pressed, urgency threading through her tone. If we're going to confront him, we need to stand together. Or else, this cycle continues. You know it will. I felt Jack's reassuring hand squeeze mine, his presence filtering through the noise. You're not alone in this, he whispered, his calmness my anchor in this storm. We'll figure it out together. And then, amid the swirling decadence of the gathering, something flickered across my sister's face. A look of vulnerability that stood in stark contrast to her earlier resolve. The truth can cut deep, but it can also heal. You saw it, didn't you? That moment of shared weight. We need to embrace it. The shadows. lingering over us thickened as I turned, scanning the faces around me. Uncertainty moved in the crowd, but also something else resonating: hope, murmurs of support growing a little louder. My heart thudded like a drum. I stood at the edge, peering into the abyss of our family's hidden truths and the pain wrapped in them, and then, in the corner of my vision, I caught a glimpse of a figure that sent a shiver down my spine. The shadowy observer had not left. Instead, he now stood alert, eyes fixated on us, providing a reminder that deeper risks persisted, ones we hadn't even begun to grasp. Who was he? What role would he play in this already delicate narrative, and did he hold keys to truths we still hadn't uncovered? As the air thickened with both tension and possibility, I realized I had the chance to break free from the silence that had suffocated us for too long. But the question lingered ominously: were we strong enough to face what lay ahead, or would the revealing light cast deeper shadows than we were prepared for? In that moment, as the weight of my doubt clashed with the fervency of newfound purpose, I made a choice. But before I could voice it, an unsettling sound, a loud crash, echoed from the lower deck of the yacht. A momentary hush swept over the crowd, and dread coiled within me. The revelation I had been bracing for might have just taken an entirely unpredictable turn. The crashing sound reverberated through the air, a stark punctuation mark that shattered the fragile tension binding the gathering. Eyes flew to the source, a frenzy of shifting bodies parting like waves around the looming center of confusion. My heart raced, each beat pounding in sync with the rising chaos that mirrored the turmoil inside me. I exchanged a quick glance with my sister, her face a mask of determination and fear. Jack's grip on my hand tightened. He seemed strangely resolute amidst the pandemonium, standing as my steadying presence, despite the uncertainty swirling around us. It was a strange contrast. In the eye of a storm, where chaos reigned, he remained a beacon of calm that I clung to. "Stay here," I whispered, even while an instinct pulled me forward, pushing me to understand what had just unfolded. I began taking cautious steps, threading my way through the crowd, half focused on the whispers that curled around me. Everyone was speculating, some in awe, others in dread. What had caused the commotion? As I approached the staircase leading to the lower deck, I could feel something vile, thickening in the air, an undercurrent of danger lurking just below the surface. My father had instructed me, more times than I could count, to look away, to ignore the deeper currents of our family dynamics. But now they were crashing to the surface with enough force to capsize everything we had known. When I reached the bottom of the staircase, the scene opened before me like a movie in slow motion. The remnants of a shattered display were strewn across the floor, a cascade of broken glass glimmering like fallen stars. At the center of the chaos, a man lay sprawled, completely still amidst the chaos of the broken bottles. It was Evan, one of my father's closest advisors. His face was ghostly pale, a sheen of sweat glazing over his forehead, and for a moment, I couldn't discern if it was the sight of his unmoving body or the mounting dread that gripped my heart like a vice. "Evan!" I shouted, rushing toward him, my mind racing. What had happened? And why was he lying here, seemingly lifeless? The crowd had pulled back, their whispers hanging heavy in the air, a mixture of fear and horror. The gravity of the situation squelched any impulse to move beyond panic. A few partygoers scuttled toward the upper deck, their faces drawn, the tension palpable as they clutched their phones, likely to call for help. I knelt beside Evan, desperate to find evidence of life. I put my fingers against his neck, searching for the pulse beneath the pallor of his skin, praying that I wouldn't feel emptiness. Relief flooded through me for a split second as my fingers pressed against a heartbeat, faint but there. My heart leaped. He wasn't gone yet. "Somebody call 911. I shouted, the frightening sense of urgency tearing through me. An onlooker, looking both horrified and fascinated, finally sprang into action, sprinting back toward the main deck. "Alex!" It was my sister, rushing onto the lower deck just moments later. The wild look in her eyes mirrored the swirling feelings inside me. "What happened?" I don't know," I stammered, my voice shaky. "I think he's hurt. Evan's hurt." But Evan was more than just a casualty of carelessness. He was a man deeply interlaced in the threads of our family's dealings, and my father's fortress had always included him within its walls. If something had happened to him, if this chaos implied more than an accident, the ramifications could set the fragile foundation of our lives ablaze. What if it's not an accident? My sister questioned, her gaze skimming the crowd, searching for something I couldn't quite decipher as fear and resolve battled in her expression. What if someone did this intentionally? Jack arrived behind her, his expression hardened as he took stock of the situation. We should get out of here, he urged quietly, his eyes scanning the perimeter, gauging who might have seen what. This isn't safe. The tension fractured again as my father appeared at the foot of the staircase, his face contorted with anger and confusion. He had seen Evan too, and I could almost hear the tumultuous thoughts crashing through his mind. What the hell happened down here? He bellowed, enforcing dominance, but my sister's defiance held him in check. The question is, Dad, who's responsible for this? She shouted back, her voice carrying with the authority I could hardly believe stemmed from our fragile relationship. This is on you. Your empire is built on secrets, and it's eating us alive. Enough. He roared, eyes darting between us. We'll figure this out later. Right now, we need to stabilize this. You can't throw accusations when you have no someone else calling for help, I interrupted, panic rising in my throat as sirens began to echo from a distance, piercing through the stillness like a warning bell. In that moment, uncertainty encased us all. The chaotic undertones of my father's empire painted in blood were coming to light, and the danger was realer than I'd ever anticipated. My very existence, my voice, and everything I had hidden from for so long, was hanging in the balance alongside Evan's life. Before the darkness closing in could suffocate me, I realized if this was the extent of my family's legacy, I would have no choice but to step into the light, face the shadows, and confront whatever darkness that lingered. Yet, among the fear, a flicker of bravery ignited within me. Then, just as I began to grasp the enormity of my decision, a gruff voice emerged from the crowd, a stranger stepping forth with a familiarity that curled my stomach into knots. Your father's past is catching up with him. And it's not just Evan you need to worry about. My breath hitched. The ominous nature of this revelation sent shivers coursing down my spine. Who was this man? What did he know? As the sirens grew louder, I peered deep into the darkness, wondering what truths were about to unravel and just how much further into the abyss I would be forced to descend. The sirens drew closer, an ominous orchestration that seemed to echo my spiraling thoughts. The stranger's words loomed over me like a dark cloud, each syllable dripping with the weight of secrets I had never been meant to bear. My instincts screamed at me to retreat, to return to the safety of ignorance, but the fiery resolve that blossomed within refused to let me back down. Who are you? I managed to choke out, my voice barely audible over the cacophony erupting around us. Just as I finished asking, the crowd parted once more, revealing the first responders threading their way through, the medics rushing toward Evan's still form like angels sent to salvage a lost cause. Alex, leave this. My father commanded, trying to take hold of my arm, but I wrenched myself free, desperation fueling my movements. This is none of your business. None of my business. I shot back, my heart hammering so fast it blurred the edges of my vision. Evan is lying there, and if this is connected to whatever dark history you've kept from us, enough. He turned sharply, his frustration boiling over. What you think you know is a fraction of the truth. The stranger took a step closer, a dangerous gleam in his eyes. The truth is more tangled than you realize, kid. Your family has made enemies, and those enemies don't care who they hurt to get what they want. The tension hung thick in the air, sharper than the shards of glass encircling Evan. Is that what you want? I whispered, fear curling around my words. To hurt us? Not I, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos. But those who know the truth, those who've been wronged by your father, might not hesitate. Don't listen to him. My father yelled, anger mixed with an edge of desperation. He's just trying to manipulate you. But the stranger's gaze held mine, something unspeakable flickering in those depths. It was a strange mix of sympathy and understanding, a gaze that told me he knew how it felt to have one's family shrouded in secrets. In that instant, I felt the corners of my heart fracture as I confronted the distance, the tangled mess of lies that had kept me from both my father and my own sense of self. Before I could respond, one of the medics shouted for backup, and Evan's body was carefully lifted on a stretcher. The sight of him, limp and pale, sent fresh waves of nausea through me. What if he didn't make it? What if his survival held the key to everything I feared? I looked at my father, desperate for some answer, some indication that he could make this right. "I swear, Alex, I'll handle this," he continued, casing the crowd as if a predator hunted amongst prey. But I could see the raw fear in his eyes, the chinks in the armor he had worn for so long. "I need you to trust me." "Trust?" I spat, feeling as though venom oozed through my veins. "Trust is what got us here. We've been living in the shadows, and it's time we faced the light." A laughter that felt foreign echoed from the crowd, and I turned to see a woman standing at the periphery, her curls bouncing as she spoke barely above a whisper. "You really think it's that simple? You can't just face the truth when it's been so deeply buried." "Who are you?" I asked, my patience wearing thin. "Someone who knows." She stepped closer, her gaze piercing through the noise. "Your father has secrets, not just about business. His past isn't as straightforward as you think." "Stop." My father's voice cracked, soaked in the weight of the accusation. "You don't know what you're dealing with." "Don't I?" The woman's voice grew firmer, a rising tide angrily pushing against the crumbling walls. "I watched my family tear apart because of the greed that binds your name to power. And trust me, Alex, it's time you learned the truth before it claims the lives of those you love." With those words, every festering wound in my heart felt torn wide open. My father, my protector, reduced to a mere shadow of the man I thought he was. How many lives had been ruined to build this legacy? The impulse to retreat washed over me, but Jack appeared suddenly at my side, a steady hand on my shoulder, grounding me amidst the turbulent revelations that swirled. "Let us get out of here," he urged softly, despite his own anxious demeanor. "For now, we need to focus on Evan and getting your family away from this." But the world around felt heavier than ever, an indelible weight pressing down on me. As I stared at Evan being wheeled into the ambulance, the sirens wailing an almost mournful farewell, I couldn't shake the gnawing fear that this was only the beginning. That I turned my gaze back to the stranger, the uncertainty of what came next rooted deeply in my gut. "Tell me what you know," I demanded, the urgency rising in my voice. "What truth could jeopardize us all?" His expression twisted into something I couldn't read, but just as he opened his mouth to reply, a piercing shriek echoed through the air. It was my sister. "Alex, look out!" I spun around to face an oncoming figure rushing through the crowd, and just before I could comprehend the danger, a fist connected painfully to my jaw, darkness swallowing me whole. When the darkness receded, I found myself on the cold pavement, the cacophony of the world numbed to a dull roar. Blinking against the harsh lights above, the edges of the scene began to solidify, reconfiguring into fragments of chaos. Panic washed over me anew as I recognized the distant shouts and the somber faces contorted by fear and uncertainty. "Alex! Stay with me!" A familiar voice pierced through the fog. It was Jack, his fingers clasped tightly around my arm as he knelt beside me, panic etched across his features. "Don't close your eyes." The ache in my jaw resonated deeper than physical pain, it twisted with a guilt I couldn't shake. Had I put everyone in peril simply by seeking to uncover the truth? I had wanted to break free from the bonds my family's secrets had woven around me, but now that desire felt like an ignited fuse leading to an explosion of consequences. "What happened?" I croaked, straining against the rising tide of anxiety. Any prelude to clarity dissolved as I caught a glimpse of my sister, her fear palpable as she spoke urgently to the paramedics. "Don't worry about that now," Jack said, his voice soothing yet firm, an anchor in a sea of uncertainty. "Evan's in the ambulance, and they're doing everything they can. You need to focus on yourself. I tried to nod but winced as the movement sent shards of pain radiating through my skull. The sight of Evan being whisked away weighed heavily on my heart. Would he survive to help me unravel the family mystery that seemed to coil tighter around us? Alex, please, Jack urged. You have to get up. We can't let this turn to chaos. Struggling to shake off the miasma that enveloped my consciousness, I managed to push myself up onto my elbows. The cool concrete was an unyielding reminder of my vulnerability, but I willed myself upright, if only to stand for those who were currently powerless. My vision swayed, but I fixed my gaze ahead, where I could glimpse the stranger lingering at the edge of the scene. He stood apart, shrouded by a crowd who remained oblivious to the tempest brewing beneath our interactions. What do you want? I called, my voice strained but resolute. The man tilted his head, an inscrutable expression darkening his features. Everything you care about is under threat, Alex, he replied, his voice steady despite the chaos that surrounded us. Your family's legacy, your friends, your love. It's all part of something far more intricate than you understand. With each word, I could feel the weight of dread unfurling within me. Then help me understand, I demanded, a flicker of hope igniting against the storm of hopelessness that threatened to engulf me. Perhaps in this stranger's knowledge, I could find a path forward, one that could offer some flicker of safety. Remember this, kid. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. Your father may be the puppet master, but the strings have been pulled by forces far darker. If you hope to navigate through the web of deceit, you must first learn who your true allies are, and who slithers in the shadows. A shiver ran down my spine. The gravity of our situation bore down on me, and it clamored for my attention, every ounce of instinct screaming that I could no longer look toward my father with blind loyalty. But as I met the stranger's gaze, I saw something, perhaps a warning, perhaps a chance. Alex. My sister's voice jolted me back. Mom's in the car. Let us go. The urgency in her tone propelled me forward, but the conflict torn between loyalty and the pursuit of truth clawed at my insides. I could either retreat to the safety of family bonds, where love was tangled and murky, or leap into the abyss of uncertainty, a choice laden with danger. Jack was at my side again, linking his arm through mine, grounding my chaotic thoughts. We need to go, he insisted softly. We'll figure this out together. Together. I found myself craving that word more than I had anticipated, a fragile anchor amidst the sea of uncertainty. We hurried toward the car where my mother awaited, worry shadowing her features. Are you okay, Alex? What happened? She asked, concern knitting her brows together. I paused, the weight of unformed explanations stalling my breath. I couldn't shatter the illusion she held around our family just yet. I'm fine, Mom. I'll be fine, I managed to force out, even as doubt flickered within me. That as I climbed into the vehicle, I cast one last glance at the crowd and felt the stranger's eyes upon me, a silent acknowledgement of our unraveling bond. There was darkness ahead, but perhaps the journey wasn't meant to be taken alone. Just before we pulled away, an explosion of panic erupted from the gathering. Someone screamed, eyes wide with horror. The last thing I heard before the car careened away was a high-pitched shout that tore through the night, "He's back. They're coming for us again." A new wave of dread washed over me, and I turned to Jack, the air electric with unspoken fears. "Who's coming?" I asked, my heart racing. He met my gaze, colors of fear dancing in his eyes. "I don't know. But we need to find out before it's too late." That unsaid sentence tethered me in suspense, knitting together our fates as the ominous reality of the unknown drove us into the shadows once more. The car lurched forward, the tires shrieking against asphalt that felt slick with uncertainty and grief. My heart pounded in rhythm with the staccato of the engine, as we raced away from the chaos we had just escaped, but my mind was still tethered to that dark figure, the stranger, whispering knowledge that felt treacherous yet tantalizing. I couldn't shake his warning, my father as the puppet master, strings pulled by unseen forces. What did it all mean? "Alex, are you sure you're okay?" My mother's voice broke through my spiraling thoughts, a lighthouse cutting through the fog of confusion. I'm fine, I repeated, though I knew the truth was twisted in my throat, making it hard to breathe. Really, I need to think. Don't think too hard, okay? She sounded more strained than before, worry lacing her features. My sister sat quietly in the back, her expression brimming with unshed tears, as if holding on to the weight of the world itself. I felt the heaviness resting on all of us, a family grappling with a storm of secrets threatening to rip us apart. As we drove, Jack's hand found mine, squeezing with reassurance. The warmth of his touch spread through me, a momentary reprieve against the chill that had settled in my bones. How was it that in this turbulent time, his presence lent me something that resembled hope? He broke the silence, his voice barely above a whisper. We'll figure it out together, remember? A flicker of warmth ignited in my chest, but it was swallowed by the shadows of doubt. We crossed over into our neighborhood, the familiarity of the street somehow more unsettling after witnessing such chaos. Home was a sanctuary, but also a cage of emotions that felt increasingly complex. Darkenings lingered just beyond its walls. We stepped inside, greeted by the dim light of the hallway. As the door clicked shut, the tense atmosphere shifted, wrapping around us like a suffocating blanket. My mother started to prepare tea, her movements mechanical, while my sister collapsed onto the couch, staring into the distance, lost in her thoughts. Maybe we should talk, Jack suggested, his gaze sliding from my sister to me, creating an invisible tether woven of shared burdens. What is there to talk about? I shot back, frustration spilling from me like lava, fueled by the helplessness that twisted within when confronted with the unknown. We're sitting in a room where nothing has been answered. It's like we're all just waiting for the next thing to explode. Sometimes explosive change is necessary, Jack replied, his eyes steadying on mine. But it doesn't change how we support each other. The truth may be terrifying, but we can navigate through it. You're not alone. I can't. My voice cracked under the weight of everything unspoken. I can't keep pretending everything is fine. What if it's not? What if we're all in danger? The air crackled with tension, wrapped in the fear of what the unknown would reveal. As if reading the storm within me, my sister finally spoke, her voice trembling. I feel it, too. There are too many secrets between us, it's suffocating. What secrets? I pressed, the dynamics shifting in real time. What do you know? Her eyes darted to the hallway as if it held the ghosts of our past. I know about Evan. About the things he has been involved in, she whispered, fear lacing her tone. There's more to what happened tonight. More connections to our family. Things that go back generations. Evan. Jack interjected, confusion brewing in his eyes. What was he mixed up in? I felt a shudder of recognition. Evan had been the one who hinted at something deeper, a legacy burdening our family. What do you mean? I asked again, urgency crowding my voice. He's caught up in their game, Alex. It's not just the past we have to reckon with, it's right here, right now. Her words hung heavily in the air as realization hit me. They're watching us. Waiting. Just then, the doorbell rang, slicing through our fragile cocoon of honesty like a knife. A wave of dread washed over me. Who could it be? I'll get it, Jack said, standing slowly. As if drawn forward by an invisible thread. I felt my pulse quicken, each beat a reminder of the moment we had stumbled into chaos. My sister clutched my arm tightly, her eyes wide with apprehension. What if it's them? We all held our breath as Jack opened the door, the hinges creaking ominously. A figure stood silhouetted against the porch light, a woman cloaked in shadow, her features indistinct but her presence unnervingly familiar. Alex, she said, her voice low but filled with urgency. You need to come with me. You have no idea what's about to happen. My heart dropped as I exchanged a terrified glance with my sister. The air felt thick with possibilities, each one more unsettling than the last. I had thought I wanted to uncover the truth, but now, standing on the precipice of uncertainty, I wondered if some secrets were never meant to be unveiled. I stepped into the unknown, compelled by a force beyond my comprehension, yet dread simmered beneath the surface. The woman's presence enveloped me, laden with urgency and an unspoken power. My heart raced not just with fear, but with an insatiable curiosity. Jack and my sister stood behind me, their expressions a mixed canvas of concern and defiance, but all I could focus on was the revelation that lay ahead. "What do you mean, what's about to happen?" I asked, trying to grasp the weight of her words, searching for clarity amidst the chaos that threatened to swallow us whole. "Your family's legacy is crumbling, Alex," she whispered urgently, glancing back as if assessing unseen eyes lurking in the shadows. "There are forces at play that will strike at the heart of what you hold dear, and time is running out. You need to stand together now, before the darkness consumes everything." The mention of darkness drew my attention. I hadn't just been witness to the shadows of my family's past, I was living within them, unearthing truths that demanded confrontation. My father had tried so hard to shield us from it, but his attempts had merely pooled in hidden wells of betrayal and shame. "What do we need to do?" I questioned, my voice steadier than I felt. "Meet me at the old boathouse at midnight," she instructed, firmness threading through her urgency. "It's where everything began and where it must come to a head. Be prepared, there will be choices that will define not just your future, but your family's very existence." "No," my sister interrupted, her voice filled with resolve. "You can't ask this of him. Whatever is waiting there could be dangerous." The protest was laced with more than fear, it was an acknowledgement of the uncharted territory we were diving into, a treacherous path paved with family secrets, yet the woman's gaze sharpened, conveying an unyielding truth. "Danger is already here, and it will strike hardest against the ones who don't stand united. This is about more than just your fears, it's about your family reclaiming its power. But you can't do it if you're divided." My heart swelled with desire for the unity she spoke of, but still, the ever-looming fear clawed at my insides. I cast a look toward Jack, seeking reassurance. I found him standing resolutely, his presence a warmth that coaxed the embrace of courage from within. He understood, as I did, that this turbulence held the potential for clarity. "Together," I echoed finally, though uncertainty clouded the edges of my resolve. The woman nodded, a satisfied flicker alighting her features. "Good," she said. "But remember, truth demands courage, and betrayal requires sacrifice." With those words hanging in the air, she turned, stepping into the shadows before I could gather my thoughts enough to ask her anything else. "Where are you going?" I called after her, but the silence that followed pressed on me like a lead weight. As I turned back to face the reality of my family waiting within the fractured threads of our legacy, my heartbeat echoed the uncertainty that enveloped my thoughts like mist. "Alex," Jack spoke softly, his hand reaching out to clasp my shoulder. "We will face this next step together. Whatever's coming, we'll take it on as a family. You're not alone anymore." Those words fell like rain, saturating the arid soil of my heart, watering seeds of resolve. My sister stepped forward, folding her arms around my waist, grounding me against the storm of emotions. "I'm with you," she echoed, and in that shared embrace, I felt the tiny tremors of fear dissolve between us, replaced by a flicker of hope that we stood there, a fragile collective, veering into the complexities of what it meant to fight for our family, transcending shadows with a tenacity I had never known before. Yet, even as we embraced that warmth, underneath lingered the unshakable sense of an impending storm. "We need a plan," I muttered as we pulled apart, the whirlwind of thoughts spinning wildly. "This isn't just about confronting what lies ahead. We need to gather everything we know, the truths that unraveled tonight." Venturing into the unknown required strategy, courage, and most importantly unity. As the weight of decisions pressed down on us, I could feel the chaos at bay, a period of reflection amidst an unfolding war between fear and resolve. With a united front, we whispered our plans, quietly slipping towards the duality of our reality, shadows merging into light. The night stretched ahead of us like an infinite canvas still unmarred by the brush of fate. "We should go now," I suggested finally, resolving to take charge. If we're meeting her at the boathouse, let us get our ducks in a row. And as we made our way through the dimly lit halls and the shadows cluttering this house of silk-threaded deceptions, I felt anew the heartbeat of possibility curling around me, drawing me toward an uncertain horizon, where I would have to confront not just a dark past but my own destiny. And perhaps, in confronting the truth, we could finally forge a legacy we could be proud of, something far greater than the tangled cords weaving our family together. Night cloaked the world outside, and as we stepped across the threshold, I had the creeping sensation that the time had come to unearth the buried truths, met with an unwavering assurance that together, we would rise above the chaos. As the echoes of laughter faded, replaced by the crashing waves of the ocean, we began our journey toward healing, each step echoing with the hope of a different tomorrow. In that stillness, one thought lingered: some legacies are born of silence, but we would not let ours be spun from shadows. We would etch our names into the light. We would illuminate the darkness together. Sometimes, the weight of the truth sharpens the soul, and in surrendering to its embrace, we find our truest selves. Tonight, I chose courage. Tonight, we would steer the ship, no longer mere passengers in a tide of uncertainty, but the captains of our own destinies. And no matter how deep the shadows ran, at this moment, I felt the light within us burn brighter than the darkness lurking just beyond the horizon.